Hey, hey, welcome to Startup Dad Headquarters, where we're exploring the intersection between fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and life. And today, Startup Dads, I'm really excited to bring onto the show James Oliver Jr. So James is a tech entrepreneur and the CEO of We Montage, which he built and funded by raising private investment capital. We Montage is the world's only website that lets you turn your photos into large collages on removable wallpaper. How cool is that? James has a degree from Morehouse College and an MBA from UNC Chapel Hill. He is married to his amazing wife, Ayana. I should have asked you this before, James.
Yeah, that's it.
And together they have the world's cutest, and that's with a K, Kewtest, twins, Thaddeus and Zoe.
Yeah. Thaddeus and Zoe.
Thaddeus and Zoe. James, welcome to the show. Thank you for really excited to have you on, and thank you for being on Startup Dad Headquarters.
Thanks for having me. Oh, one point of clarification that we talk about the investment capital to start the business. I also, like a lot of people, who took the plunge, I cleared out my savings. So I spent my last $35,000 first to build an alpha version of the website, before I was able to raise investment capital.
Wow. Yeah. Talk about skin in the game. So
yeah. I'm all in, man. There's no plan B.
Right. I love that quote. Will Smith, he says, it's like I only focus on plan A because plan B distracts from plan A. So, yeah.
It's true. It's kind of like Napoleon Hill said, talked about like burning your ships.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Awesome. So, James, I told the audience a little bit about you. Please take a second. Let us know what you have going on right now with your business and what's really exciting you about your business. We're definitely going to go into your Startup Dad journey. And of course, this is Startup Dad Headquarters, so we are going to talk about the family.
Yeah, no, that's great. In terms of the business, the business is exciting because, we have a great product. Like the website's really good. Our customers really love it. I finally figured out the importance of focusing on the why and not the what. That makes sense. You may have seen that blog post on my site. We've been getting some really great PR these last 2 weeks. We got a great review on marthastewart.com, which is just like, wow, that's unbelievable.
That's amazing.
And we got a great review on cnet.com. I don't know, do you subscribe to the blog at all?
Yeah. But I know CNET for sure. Yeah.
So I got a great review there, which is doing wonders for sales right now. And the CNET thing came as a result of some cold email that I sent, which is just like crazy. So,
right.
But yeah, so like I'm excited about the potential. I just, in my mind, like I see what the business can be, and I'm trying to think about it as already that way, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this tension between like, what's really real, right? And what's going on with the bank accounts, right? And your vision for things, right?
Right.
So yeah, I'm just excited about the PR. I have a great PR girl working with me now. We got some good hits in the pipeline, and just trying to take a piece of clay, man, and just create something from nothing, from an idea, and creating a whole new category, which is what we did with We Montage, and trying to turn it into a thing, right? Mm-hmm. Because right now it's just not a thing. And like, how do you turn something into a thing? Like I talked to the COO of a really big competitor, and he said that the CEO of that company spent like $15 million turning that company into a household name.
Right.
I don't have $15 million. But that's part of why I'm trying to get on Shark Tank, because that's the equivalent of $10 to $15 million of advertising,
right.
Which is what the CEO of Groovebook said. They just got acquired by Shutterfly for like $15 million. And he said they got acquired essentially because they had the equivalent of $10 to $15 million of free PR and advertising by being on Shark Tank. Right. So, I'm not expecting necessarily to get on Shark Tank. I'm hopeful, obviously, but I'm not thinking about it. But that would just be awesome if I make it on the show.
Man, thank you for sharing that with us, James. And, that's why here at Startup Dad, we talk about exploring the intersection between fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and life. And as you mentioned with your, looking at the bank account, looking at your vision and everything else you have going on, it's like, it's you're trying to build that legacy and you're trying to make your mark on this planet. And what you have, the product you have is amazing, but to get it out there, or to, like my friend Mike Stelzner talks about, that rocket ship kind of launching, most of that fuel is used just to get it off the ground.
Oh my God, it's so true. It's so true.
Right.
Exactly right.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, you use that word legacy, and I was reading your bio and thinking about that, and I know people talk about that a lot, and up until now, I never really thought that was important to me, but I guess it kind of is, though, because so part of the reason I do what I do with WeMontage, so I think my purpose in life is like twofold in some ways. So it's to be a successful entrepreneur, but to also inspire others to the same, which is the reason I have the blog. But I also want to be a shining example to my twins of what's possible when you choose, right? Because that's a conscious choice. Like for me, this was a conscious choice, and I can tell you that story later if you want. When you choose to live a purpose-driven, passion-filled life, right? And not to just make the safe choices. Oh, go be an attorney, go be a doctor because so-and-so said you should do that, right? But like, what is it that you feel your calling is? Like, what is it you feel like you were put on this earth to do and to be, and like, do that.
Right.
And I want to be an example to them that when you do that, you're like, wonderful things can happen so that they know it's okay. And I think that is part of like legacy.
Nice.
So
nice. Now you brought up, and I have to touch on this because in my private Facebook group, my private Startup Dad Facebook group, we just had a conversation about purpose and passion, right? You hear a lot about passion. Go after your passion, create something around your passion. And, one dad in there said, no, I think purpose is what you need to go after, not passion. You need to go after purpose. How did you come across your purpose? How did you define your purpose? Because purpose, there's some that find it early in life, like maybe like, what's that guy's name? The swimmer there, that Michael Phelps, right? Yeah. He found his purpose or his calling or what he was meant to do. And then there's those, unfortunately, who potentially pass away and die, never knowing what their true purpose was.
Yeah, which is just terrible, man. It's just, I think it was Mario. So I'm real good friends with Mario Armstrong. I'm in this Facebook group called the Never Settle Club. Have you heard of this?
No.
I got to invite you to this group, man. So it's basically a group of people, who don't want to settle in life, who want to aspire to do and be their very best at whatever it is. So I'll add you to the group. So on Facebook. I think, are we friends on Facebook? We'll fix it. Okay, so I'll add you to the group. But so Mario was just saying the other day in his video, he posted about one of his favorite quotes is from Mark Twain, who said that, the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you figure out why. Right? So for me, I've known ever since I was a kid, like back in high school, that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But I went to college and I studied accounting and like, it's funny because back then, like my spirit was telling me like, I don't want to do this. Like I remember telling my mom, like, I don't want to be an accountant, right? I want to do something else. But she wouldn't let me change my major because, her thinking was, oh, this is the safe thing to do, right? But in my view, and I wrote an article about this, I apologize if I keep referencing this. I write about all the stuff that I'm grinding on, man. But the title of the article is, is it risky playing it safe with life? Like, you don't want to, I told the story about this woman, she works with people who have like 6 months left to live and she takes care of them. And she talked about like the 5 common regrets people have. And one of the regrets is that they just didn't really, live an authentic life.
Right.
You get to the point where you realize you don't get a do-over, at least as far as we know. Right? I don't know.
Right.
But like, I'm not going to be that dude. Like if I die tomorrow, I'm like, you know what? At least I intended and attempted to live life authentically and, job well done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I knew for a long time, but I had a circuitous path to getting to the point back in, I think it was 2011, the end of the year, where I just decided, enough. I am an entrepreneur. I'm going to figure it out. I dabbled before with some other stuff in the past after business school. I didn't work out, and I went and got some jobs, and no more of that. That's dead.
Nice. So James, we're definitely going to go into your journey, but before we do that, and I know we've been talking for a little bit, and I love the conversation and the direction it's going, but before we do that, I want to kick off with this. No other success can compensate for failure in the home. And that's the quote that I try to live by and remind myself every day, because family is first. So let's talk about family. We mentioned your wife and your two beautiful children at the beginning. Tell us a little bit more about them. I know it's 9:27 p.m. my time right now, and the kids are in bed, and so are yours.
Yeah. So family is really important. If it wasn't for my wife and kids, in some ways I would be lost right now. But so every morning before I get out of bed and every night before I go to sleep, I silently affirm a few things. And, two of them are, I am a great husband and I am a great dad to the twins, right? Like just affirming that, like, if you believe that there's power in the words, I am, right? Just like activating that and trying to make that manifest into reality. So, it's important. I read an amazing book. I was late to the party. I know, The Alchemist. So many people have read that book already. But like in that book, man, the main character, he had a woman of the desert, right? You familiar with that book?
I am not. I'm very late to the
party. Whatever you're reading now, when that's done, you got to get that one, man.
Yeah, right now I'm reading Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters by Meg Meeker.
Well, when you're done with that, Alchemist. But, he talked about the importance of a woman in the desert. And in my view, like, obviously if you're an entrepreneur, you got to have a good idea, something for which people are willing to pay you in a reasonable amount of, contribution margin so you can grow the business, blah, blah, all that stuff, right? But at the end of the day, if you are married or in a serious relationship and you don't have a woman of the desert, that's a woman that's down for you, that's going to be supportive of you as you pursue your purpose. Like, dude, that is a recipe for disaster. And I got lucky. I had no idea that she was going to be down like that. You just don't know till you know in some ways. Right. And like yeah, man. Yeah,
right.
My wife.
Yeah, that's perfect. And it's one thing if she married you and you were already an entrepreneur, right? Like if you're already.
Dude, my wife married. I proposed to my wife. So this is when I was trying to launch a digital lifestyle magazine for Black golf enthusiasts at the time. It was called 7 Under, right? I had an MBA. I was working part-time in a golf shop for $10 an hour, hustling my tail off. Right. Trying to make this business thing go somewhere. And, I proposed to her. I bought her a ring and she said yes. And she says to this day, she saw the potential. Nice. You know what I'm saying? She wasn't just looking at that. Like, that was a choice for me to go do what I did for a variety of reasons. But anyway, I'm sorry. I mean,
that's beautiful. 9 years later and she's still holding on to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, how are you balancing, between WeMontage and your blog, Trep Life Dad? How are you balancing that and the two, your two twins, the two kids who are 2 years old and being a good husband?
Dude, it's hard. It's harder than you think because I'm also a stay-at-home dad. Right. So the business ran out of cash last year. I had to come home and take care of the twins, be the primary caregiver, plus turn the business around. When literally I was watching the business do this, right? So you can imagine, the personal impact, that has on a person. And, like when you're staring into the abyss, that's kind of how I felt a lot of times with no answers, only questions, but being there for them as well. So being a stay-at-home dad, taking care of kids, plus grinding on the business, hustling all 24/7. And it's hard, man. My wife gets on me a lot about like how much I'm on my computer and all this stuff. But the thing I try to explain to her is like, honey, look, I have X amount of time to make this thing work from a liquidity runway standpoint. And while I have that time, it's like all hands on deck. That doesn't mean I'm not present with the kids, because I am all the time. I take care of them. I'm the primary cook in the house. I take them to daycare 3 days a week now. I pick them up. I bathe them. I change them. I feed them. I play with them even during the day sometimes, intermittently. All the while, when customers are calling on the phone, I have an in-app CRM that pops up on my iPhone. If a customer has a question, if they're on my website, so I'm like chatting real time with customers. It's just nuts, dude.
Wow.
It's nuts. So, yeah, it's hard, and I'm like always like grinding mentally on like, what can I do? Like, what can I be doing to make some incremental difference in the business? And a lot of times, like, she's like, oh, why are you always on the computer? I'm like, dude, because I'm hustling. Like, I'm trying to make this thing a thing. So, 5 years from now, when we got a couple million in the bank, like, we're chilling, right?
Right.
So it's hard. It's not easy.
Now, you talked about, and this is going to take us into the journey. You talked about the why. You're hustling, like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, you're hustling your face off. You're being this awesome dad, stay-at-home dad, doing all the things that you're doing, and probably getting very, very little sleep. Why? Why are you doing all of that?
Well, like I talked about before, man, it's part of my purpose. So the other thing of the 6 things or whatever it is I say before I go to bed, before I wake up, and one of them is, I am a successful entrepreneur. And I wrote an article a few months back, and this was like a real like aha moment for me. I wrote an article and somebody shared it on Facebook, and in the description they said, here's an interesting article from a successful entrepreneur. And when I saw that, I kind of like, wow, it was just interesting to see that somebody perceived me that way, because we tend to be so hard on ourselves, and I've been like through so much with the business, and like obviously the business is not where I would like it to be, or where my investors would like it to be, but it is where it is, right? And when I saw that, I was just like, wow, my purpose, like, there's some things that I've accomplished that nobody can take away from me no matter what, right? Mm-hmm. I created this idea out of like thin air. Like, most people don't ever get past the idea stage. Right? I went through an accelerator. I raised not 1, but 2 rounds of capital now. My business has been featured on Today Show twice, Martha Stewart now, CNET.com now, the DIY network, all these things that have happened. Like, we've got like over $100,000 in sales. So, even though the business is not like crushing it, like, I am a successful entrepreneur. Like, we have to stop being so hard on ourselves sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, no matter what, like, I've been successful at being an entrepreneur, no matter what, like, period. So I am a successful entrepreneur. And the other thing is, I want to inspire other people to just like go for it. Like, if that's what you feel you should be, like, be that. Like, I wrote an article titled, like, be what you are. Like, what are you? Like, be what you are. And so, and I know, because people tell me all the time in the comments on the blog and on Facebook, and even today, some woman just posted this wonderful thing, comment about how I inspire so many people. And like, I had no idea. And I'm like, if I'm already inspiring people, well, guess what? That's part of my purpose. I'm on purpose. Right. So like, I accepted that. For me, that was a huge like aha epiphany moment. And it was kind of wonderful, actually.
Yeah.
Not being so hard on ourselves,
Yeah, it goes back to that. You can't see the picture when you're in the frame.
Oh, dang! I saw somebody posted that somewhere yesterday. Yeah.
I'm not sure who's.
My brother posted that on Facebook, I think. The people can see this in the frame. The people step outside the frame or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So James, take us. This is Startup Dad headquarters, and we want to go back to your start. Share with us some of the early stages of your Startup Dad journey. Clearly, we want to get to the point where when your twins come into the picture. Yeah. Take us a little bit further back and tell us how did this all get started for you?
Yeah, so it was September of 2011. My wife was watching an interior design show on HGTV, and she called me upstairs to see what they were doing. And it was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. It was Home by Novogratz. The Novogratz is a famous interior designers. And they were in a family's basement covering their entire walls with these big, beautiful collages, right? And I was like, wow. I'm like, wow, that's really, really cool. Like, I want one. Like, I have these great wedding pictures that you see behind me. I'm like, I want to put my wedding pictures on my wall too, right?
Yeah.
so I literally like stayed up all night long trying to figure out how the heck they did that. And it was clear like there was no way for the average person to do it. Like they had some fancy smancy digital print company thing in New York that was doing all that stuff, paying them tons of money. So I was like, I was like, I'm going to build a company to do this. Like, mind you, I don't know how to write a single line of code. And we have this extremely complicated software that we use, using these algorithms to generate these collage layouts now. It's just nuts. I don't know how to write code.
Right.
So, so I cleaned out my savings, $35,000, the last of my savings, and that was to build an alpha version of the website that I was promised was only going to take 3 months to build. I learned the hard way. A good buddy of mine tells me, like, if you want to build software, you can build it fast, you can build it cheap, or you can build it really well, but you only get to pick two. Right? And because I have champagne taste on a PBR tall boy budget, right? it took a year to build that thing. Like, now, I was not prepared for the consequences financially of that happening. So I ran out of cash. So now I'm working in Banana Republic during the holidays just to try to make a couple dollars. My wife is pregnant with twins, right? So then, I was hating every minute of that. Like, working at Banana Republic, like, seriously, I just hated it. So we go for a routine checkup, ultrasound, and it turns out, my son's placenta, there was an issue with the blood flow, so we had to go on bed rest. And they said normally it's about 3 weeks or so before you have to take them out. So then the next week, they looked at the ultrasound. It was like, there's a problem here. His blood's starting to go backwards. We have to take him out. Right? This was like 3 weeks early. So the kids, we had to take the kids out. And like that was, the birth of the kids was really traumatic for a variety of reasons. I don't have to get all that. But so the next day, I was supposed to be, so I got accepted into this tech startup accelerator called Generator. It's Wisconsin's premier tech startup accelerator.
Yep.
The next day, I was supposed to be leaving to go to Madison, which is 2 hours drive away. Right? And I'm just like, literally my son was fighting for his life. I'm like, there's no way I can leave. Right? But I also knew that if I didn't go, most likely WeMontage was going to be set. Like, really, really. I'm not going to say it would have been dead, because I would have still been trying to find a way. That's just what I do. Actually, that's what I'm best at, is not quitting. But it would have been really hard. Going into the accelerator was going to give me the credibility to raise the capital I needed to make a go at this thing, to use up all that rocket fuel, like you said.
Right.
But my wife, so here's what I'm talking about, a woman in the desert, dude. My wife was the one. She was like, you have to go.
Wow.
She's like, we need you to make WeMontage a success. So get your ass down to Madison and rock out the accelerator.
Wow.
Seriously? Who does that?
Who does that?
I mean, really? So I left, and I was home on the weekends, and the kids were in the NICU for a while.
How long was the accelerator?
It was 3 months.
Wow.
So for 2 to 2.5 months, like, I cried every day. I mean, I had the pressure and stress of trying to build the products in time for demo day from nothing, basically, to raise capital. I was waking up every night at like 2 in the morning because I was so stressed out, and with all the stuff going on with the family, I couldn't go back to sleep. It was hard, man. It was hard.
Wow.
Back home on the weekends, in the NICU the whole time. It was hard.
2 hour drive back and forth every weekend.
Yeah. So I was back home on the weekends.
So now, I've never been in an accelerator, but I've heard of them. Did they align you with a team, a developer? How did that work out?
Yeah, I did have a developer. A super smart, talented guy, but God, he had these personal demons, which I won't like get into, but that basically made him incredibly unreliable. So on top of all that other stuff I told you about, I got that going on. So I actually ultimately ended up firing him shortly after graduated from the accelerator, because he just kept mismanaging the code, breaking stuff, and whatever. He was just misbehaving badly. But so on top of all that, I'm dealing with that,
Right.
So plus I also had a front end guy that was doing some front end development work for me.
Right. Now, how did this accelerator go? Did you get, is that where you raised your first level of
Yeah,
capital?
exactly. So I got to the end of that and totally raised $310,000. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So now take us to, so now you 3 months, you're back home. That's done. The accelerator is done. You raise the capital. What do you start to
Yeah.
do now? You start putting a team around you? Like how do you,
Well, no,
what's the next step?
I already had the guys working with me,
Mhm.
but actually it was funny because I fired the guy because he broke the website and just, so that was just nuts, man. I was working with some consultants in the evening for like 3 weeks till midnight every night, trying to fix what this guy broke. My son was home. He was home from the NICU on oxygen attached to that stupid beeping machine.
Mhm.
So that was just drama, you know. But yeah, you get to work, man. You just start, building out the website, building the product, as much as possible, improving the user experience. I hired a technical co-founder, great guy, still a good friend to this day. He actually is not working with me anymore after the business ran out of money. He went and did something else. But yeah, we were hustling our tails off to improve the product, right? And a lot of marketing dollars spent, wasted a lot of money on things like Google AdWords, spent a bunch of money, getting a booth at BlogHer, which is interesting because now I think that actually might pay off a few years later. So speaking of BlogHer, I also write for She Knows. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
I'm a contributing author for SheKnows.com, which just acquired BlogHer, and I blog about entrepreneurship. And so every year, BlogHer has something called the Voices of the Year, and they have like hundreds of honorees for Voice of the Year, and they pick 5 people to actually come to the conference and read their article in front of a room full of thousands of people. And I'm one of the 5 people that goes to New York next month to read my article. So that's kind of cool.
Cool. So now with your blogging now, are you blogging, contributing blogger for She Knows? Is that bringing in money also, or is that, how does that?
No, not really. No, not at all. In fact, they don't. She Knows is a tremendous platform, but like my voice on that platform in some ways is an outlier.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good and bad. Right now I'm talking to them like, guys, how can we increase my profile on this platform? How can we drive more people to this content? So I'm waiting to have that conversation with those guys. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it's like another, feather in my cap. It gives me more credibility. I'm building relationships with people, on that team, which can be beneficial. And hopefully I hope those people eventually connect to my voice because it's a refreshing voice. I think it's relevant, particularly on that platform, but they just got to find a way to let people know about it.
Yeah. And on your website, you also have a couple of videos. Like you said, the business was showcased in the Today Show, and then you were also on the local news station. How did you manage to make all that happen?
Dude, it's all luck and hustle, man. It's all, I'm all about like hustle. Like hustle is greater than luck. I wrote an article titled that. Persistence is greater than patience for entrepreneurs. I wrote an article about that. I also wrote one last week that said, yeah, persistence is greater than patience, but patience is needed too. Because while you're being persistent and grinding and hustling, you got to be patient to wait for the fruits of your labor. Right. So the Today Show thing happened because a friend of mine sent me a text. NPR was looking to connect with some Black tech entrepreneurs because there are not a ton of us out here. They were doing a tweet chat a series called "A Day in the Life of a Black Tech Entrepreneur." And so she sent me this text. I like immediately sprang into action, hitting up NPR on Facebook, Twitter. They pinged me right back. They were like, "Oh yeah, we checked out your stuff. It looks really interesting. We'll get right back to you." And part of the reason I wanted to do is, A, I thought it would be fun, but B, Mario Armstrong was curating the tweets. And I'm like, wow, Mario's on the Today Show. I'm like, he seems like a super dope dude. And I'm like, man, maybe if I could do this, maybe he will notice me. And like, maybe he'll like we montage. And maybe like in my Steve Jobs reality distorted mind, like maybe, just maybe I could get on the Today Show. And it happened not once, but twice now, being on the Today Show.
Nice.
Right. And then so, in terms of the local news, like Mario was the one through the Never Settle Club I was telling you about. He was the one that encouraged me because I want to create a national platform for Trep Life Dad. You know, as a parent entrepreneur advocate, much like yourself, you know, I think there are lots of most new businesses are started by, I believe many new businesses are started by parents, right? And there's not a lot of places you could go online and read content that's applicable or engage with other people like that and get inspired or inspire others of similar mindset, right? So Mario was like, you know, the first thing you have to do is get a foothold in your local market. Like bone up your skills, have some tape that you can show people. So that's why I did that. And, you know, it's funny, like I live up here in Northeast Wisconsin, entrepreneurship, you know, tech entrepreneurship is like, what? Right. You know, there's not a ton of diversity. So I know people try to see me like, what?
Right.
But I'm like, whatever, I'm doing my thing. You know what I mean? And people are like, oh my God, you cook too. I like the recipe. So it's fun. It gives me experience being on television. I'm extremely comfortable in front of the camera and I enjoy it.
Yeah, I interviewed Clint Arthur recently. I haven't released the episode yet, but he's all about that. And he helps entrepreneurs to create what he calls celebrity status. And it is, how do you get on these local stations? Starting off with the local station, he shared a story about how he launched his book and he wanted to get on the Today Show. And his publisher was like, whoa, 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 whoa. No way that's going to happen. Why don't we start here on this local station? And then he started booking himself on local stations all across the country. And then eventually he landed on the Today Show and Good Morning America and all these other things. And and now he helps other entrepreneurs to do the same thing. Right.
So it's funny you talk about a book because today, so I'm listening to this audio book. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, I got inspired today. I was walking my dog at the park after I dropped the kids off at school. Like for a long time, I've known I wanted to write a book. But this morning I just got inspired. I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a book. And the book already exists. The book is on my blog. It's there. I just have to pull it out. Right. So I'm going to write a book. And for all the reasons you just mentioned, it's, you know, you become perceived having all this additional credibility now, you know, easier for you to get these big media placements and interviews and such. But, you know, so yeah, you want to do that. But I just think that a lot of my experiences will inspire people and people will be able to relate to it. And I just want to share it, you know?
Yeah. James, what's your biggest failure along this journey?
Biggest failure. Yeah, that's a hard question to answer, man, because a lot of times when you think you lose, you ultimately win. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some setbacks, right? Like running out of cash and being basically like left alone, like literally, to try to figure all this out on my own. Having to like swallow my pride and come home and take care of my kids. Like I didn't want to be a stay-at-home dad, but you know, like I'm thankful I get to see the kids the way I do now. Like I feel like I have a really special bond with them now that I wouldn't have had otherwise if I was just like grinding all day at work, right? So yeah, on the one hand, that was bad, but the other flip side of it, it ended up allowing me to spend this time with my kids. They're only going to be 2 once, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, not getting on Shark Tank last year really sucked. You know, whatever. You pick yourself up, you dust yourself off. I went out again this year. But, you know, I'm not expecting to hear from them, although I think I should be on the show. I think I'll be great television. But, you know, if I don't get a call in the next couple of weeks, I don't think it's going to happen because I believe they're shooting in June and again in September. But they're still auditioning, so they're probably picking from this current batch of auditions for the June shootings.
Right.
So
now, the first time you went, if I remember seeing on your website, you made it pretty close.
Well, I made it to the second round of auditions, and I did that again this year. So the second round, you have to fill out a crap ton of paperwork and then shoot a really long video answering a bunch of questions for them. And telling them about yourself. So I made it to that stage again this year, and I feel like my video this time was better because I told more of the story, like the whole grit and persistence thing. I know how much they value that, right? So got a lot more of that to talk about since last year. So I spent more time talking about that and less time talking about the product, because it's not just about the product, you know. And that's kind of goes back to what I was saying about the why versus the what. Before, we were marketing the business so much about the what. Oh, it's removable wallpaper. Oh, it's software, blah, blah. Who cares? Like, nobody cares. It's like, why does this company exist, right? And what I realized is people display pictures for one of three reasons. Because it makes them feel loved in some way, or feel love, right? It makes them happy, or it inspires them. And what I realized from the feedback from our customers is the reason they love our product. I mean, you can look behind me. I mean, you see how big these pictures are?
Yeah.
I mean, this is high impact. Like, this is high impact what we're doing. And because the pictures are so clear and such a high impact, you end up feeling more of the things the reasons you display pictures in the first place. You feel more love. Like, this was my wedding. We got married in Dominican Republic on the beach. I mean, the weather was amazing that day. My wife looked beautiful. Our friends and family were there. Like, the day was just perfect. I mean, when I look at this wall, we have some other pictures up in a frame upstairs. I mean, every once in a while I look at that, but I look at this all the time and it just makes me smile. Right? It makes me happy. Yeah. So it's just focusing on more of the why, like more stories about, you know, love, happiness, trying to connect more emotionally with customers, and not so much about the what, because nobody cares about the what.
Yeah.
You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I saw, for some reason I'm getting an echo. Are you hearing an echo?
No.
That's weird.
No echo on my end.
Yeah, when I saw your website and I saw on the top, it said more love, more happiness, more inspiration. I was like, oh yeah, they definitely get it.
Oh, thank you. I just changed that like a few weeks ago. That's what it's about.
Yeah, that's what it's about. It's like, this is perfect. They definitely get it, because yeah, that's what you want to feel. That's what you want to get. It's that emotional, right? Instead of pushing the what, it's the why.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly right. It's trying to connect more emotionally with people. That's why people display pictures, you know. And I get emails all the time from people like, oh, I made so-and-so cry. This made my mom cry. This made my wife cry. They freaking love this stuff. You know, so it's about that. It's not about the software. Yeah, the software we built is cool, but like, who cares?
Right. No one cares about the software. They're definitely not paying for the software.
Right? Nobody cares. Oh, it's cool. Oh, by the way, the software is great. Great. Is it perfect? No. It cracks me out when people say the website was good. I'm like, really? I'm like, I remember what it used to be. And I know all the bugs are. I'm like, oh, I'm glad you loved it.
So, James, as we start to wrap up, we're now entering the final segment of the show, which I call the Rapid Fire Handyman segment. This is where we quickly reach into your toolbox, and then you provide the Startup Dad community with some useful tips, tactics, and tools. Are you ready to rock?
Sure.
All right. What's your number one time management hack or tool?
I don't have one, man. I'm terrible. Well, okay, so I'm very organized. Like, so because I'm getting older, my memory's not as good as it used to be. I always put things on my calendar with an alert. Right. So my wife's like, "Oh, remind me to do something." I'm like, "No, why don't you just put it in your calendar with an alert?" So you know, what are you talking about? So I use my calendar judiciously, and that helps me stay on task, get things done. I don't have a problem getting distracted and procrastinating because I'm like, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm like super like driven and motivated. Mm-hmm. But so I'll put my calendar, which is not really a good answer, but that's all I got. Sorry.
Nice. To be honest with you, that's probably the number one answer. Yeah. What I mean, in terms of all the interviews that I've done, what's one way you manage your health?
Well, I live in Wisconsin, and it's the winter here. It's just brutal. I feel like every winter I gain like 10 pounds. But when the weather warms up, you know, we ride bikes together as a family. We put the little buggy on the back with the kids, and we go ride bikes. I love taking the dog to the park and just like walking around, doing some laps in the morning, which is good. I love to play golf and carry my golf bag, which is really underrated. I mean, you can burn like 900 calories walking and playing golf. The other thing, though, is meditation. Meditation is the only thing for me that keeps the anxiety monsters away. It just keeps me way more centered. That's the only thing for me.
Nice. What's one book every startup dad should read from an entrepreneur standpoint and from a fatherhood standpoint?
Oh, wow. I actually have a list of books on my website, books that I love. I love Do More Faster by David Cohen. That's a really good one for entrepreneurs. Fatherhood. I don't know. You know, actually a buddy of mine in one of my dad blogger groups, Scott Benson, just released a book today called Fatherhood, Work, Family, I think is the name of it. But he just published a book recently talking about, you know, being a good dad, being present, juggling work and all that stuff. So that's a book that I think maybe people could check out. Scott Besson, Behson is his name.
Awesome. So James, thank you for your time and coming on the Start of That show. My final question is a little bit longer, but it really produces power. So this echo is killing me. So really, it typically produces really powerful results. And here it is. On the other side of this broadcast is a startup dad who at this point is fired up and ready to go. But as soon as the broadcast is over, he'll put down his mobile device, and as you know, life is going to happen. What would you say to that dad to inspire him on this broadcast?
You know, you just got to do it, man. I don't mean to be all cliche, but you know, so many people, I feel like, talk and less people do. We need more doers in the world. Like you got to take a step. I don't mean to be cliche again. Like I don't like all the platitudes and stuff, but that's it. Like if you've got to like do something, like does that mean it's going to work out the way you envision? You know, of course not. But you've got to do something. It's almost like the more I hustle, the luckier I get. I talk about that. And like if you hustle, that's how I got on the Today Show. Like you hustle. Like I got on CNET.com because I sent a cold email to the guy who writes the blog on CNET. I mean, I did my research, read up on him, what he liked, what he didn't like, all that stuff. And I crafted an email based on the roadmap he left for me on his website, on his blog, of how to contact him. And he loved it. Like, and then a couple weeks later, I was on CNET. So if I wasn't hustling and doing that, you know, just do something. Like, surround yourself with like-minded people. If you have some, like, go to meetups, find some people, places where entrepreneurs are gathering, you know, get to know some people, get 3 to 5 friends where you guys can meet for coffee, you know, once a week, every 2 weeks, and just talk about the stuff that you guys are working on. Use them as a sounding board, because only entrepreneurs understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur. You can't talk about the stuff that you're struggling with regular people, because they're just not going to get it. Right. So, you know, find a community of like-minded people and just get started. Like, don't wait. Like, don't wait. Just do it.
Awesome, James. Awesome. Thank you. And thank you again for coming on the Startup Dad Show. Please let the audience know where they could find you, you know, between WeMontage, Prep Like Dad, and anywhere else they can find you online. And then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, awesome. So you can find me on Twitter at James Oliver Jr., James Oliver Jr. You know, there's obviously at WeMontage. You can find me, connect me at Trep Life Dad, TREP lifedad.com. That's the blog. Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, Joel, for having me. I appreciate it.